Okay, thank you for joining us. I have a very interesting guest today, a young man who's a university student who wants to remain anonymous, so we're respecting that. But he's a child of a divorce, a high conflict divorce, and then pretty drastic, I would say, alienating techniques from both parents. So we're very, very happy to have him join us here, and we'll just jump right into it. So what was it like growing up with your parents? Was it pretty high conflict almost as far as you can remember?
Yeah, so I think from day one, it was a lot of physical abuse, a lot of verbal abuse. And that was mainly from one side of the family, while the other side kind of acted as the protector, the ultimate protector. But also at the same time, kind of cued in a lot of control um, from the protector side of the family, I guess. And so it was like this very push and pull, um, roller coaster of life. Nothing was ever stable.
When did they actually get divorced?
So they actually got divorced conveniently the exact year I moved to university.
And so at that time, there's a divorce. You're
Mhm.
trying to get through university. Um, Did you feel at any point that you were being used as a pawn by either or both parents?
So at that point in my life, I had kind of managed to make something stable out of a very chaotic situation. And so a lot of things that came up after the divorce were not out of the ordinary to me. And so I kind of had no idea. It was very in the dark. Um, it was it was a bit odd in the sense that there was a lot more kindness um, from both sides, and things were changing. It was different. But I had expected that from a divorce. Your parents are separating, there's change. And so I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think there was going to be anything to the behaviors that had happened.
When did you start seeing behaviors happening that kind of started things to spin out of control on your end?
So I actually hadn't known. So how that kind of worked was I was from one side of the family, they were nice to me in a sense of like support, offering whole loads of support for this and that. Oh, you have a lot of tools, so you can keep them. You can keep them at my place, and it's like, oh, great, and that's so thoughtful of you to want to be able to do that. And this had been going on for about like a year, couple of years, maybe a year and a half, and I didn't know that I was having kind of my stuff being at the house, being used as proof that I was living there in order to extract alimony from side until midway through. And it just kind of broke me. Because you think that you were getting support for a whole year and a half, and you start to question your entire relationship with your parents.
And did it happen on both sides, or was it just more of the one parent or the other?
So one was more, I guess, legally, on the legal side of the divorce, was more manipulative that way. And the other side was more, I guess, emotionally, they've taken on a lot of emotion as a protector. And so they needed to kind of release that emotion as well. And that kind of got put on top of myself, which I'm in university. I already have all the assignments, all the quizzes, all the finals on top of my head. My parents' stress is not something that's going to be very helpful on top of that. But yeah, so one side was more kind of emotionally um, manipulative, while the other side was more kind of financially. trying to get proof of support, and anything they needed legally and needed to show in court, they were trying to get that proof.
Now, were the parents trying to get you to sort of side with one or the other, or to testify for one over the other? Was there that sort of thing happening?
So there was this at the very beginning when the divorce first starts. There's a lot of things that one parent wants to say about the other. Oh, I have something to tell you about the other parent that you never knew, but you should know, you know. So stuff like that, new information that should probably be just kept secret, you know. I wasn't even born when some of this information had come out, and it's it's not important for me to know. It was kind of purely out of malice and purely out of being upset with the divorce and the situation that this information would come out.
Wow, I'm sorry that you were kind of put in the middle. That must have been very, very difficult for you to handle. Now, was it from both parents to some degree?
One more than the other, I would say, but it was both sides had a lot of frustration, um, and one side would show it a lot more prevalently than the other side, I would say.
And did the parents, either of the parents, try to get you to sort of spy on the other parent and try and get information about the other parent?
Yes, actually. So it wasn't really like spying. It was kind of like what they were doing. You know, they're very curious. It's a very classic high school-esque breakup, like where it's like, they're, oh, what are they doing? Like, who are they seeing? You know, what are they up to now? Very nosy, actually. And you would think for a divorce and a breakup, you kind of want to just be apart and mind your own business.
Now, in divorce, the rule of thumb for a cordial divorce is that you don't share details of the legal process to a child.
Mhm.
Were there inappropriate amounts of the legal battle that was being kind of leaked to you by either party during this whole divorce?
I would say it's pretty difficult um, to put into terms as leads just because I had the petition. And so I thought I needed to prove what was going on. And so I actually requested those documents.
To
Now, when
prove.
you say petition, you mean the petition for your school, right?
Less, yeah. And so it's kind of a gray zone on. I would say information regarding the emotions around some of the deposition was like inappropriately put on top of me. I can say that, but I think for the legal documents part, I did request those for my petition, so it is kind of a gray area.
So, so you have, you're the eldest child. Your parents are getting divorced. So it does sound like there was bad mouthing in terms of trying to, make you turn away from the other parent. Now, it's often said that, a child has a tie genetically to both parents, right? You're half the father's DNA, half the mother's DNA. How did it feel to be told that, half of you was this rotten person or came from this really rotten person?
I think it was hard. It was definitely hard from to be told information about kind of the protecting side of my situation. Whereas with the abusive side, it was already known in my mind that they've experienced some things in the past, and that this was probably just getting passed down to me. But it was harder kind of going the other way because you kind of put with when you have one abusive parent and one protective parent, you put one of the parents on a pedestal as like this perfect human being, but no one is perfect. And so it's very hard to kind of accept that both humans are just human and they both make mistakes. Someone can't be absolutely perfect and will make mistakes that they don't like and has been through, you know, stuff that I probably should know about. And on the other side, you have someone that's been through a lot and just hasn't dealt with it in a proper way, um, but is trying their best. And you have to accept both of those scenarios. You have to forgive, and you have to also realize that this person is also not perfect.
What was the impact going through all this while you're trying to do school, and imagine trying to be a good student? What was the impact on your schooling?
Big, just a huge, huge lack of trust for anybody, I guess. One of the things, like including professors. So one of the things that I had experienced in my life was I would have a lot of my teachers kind of come up to me and kind of parent me from school because that was a request from the one of my parents, to talk to me about behaving at home, even though this teacher hadn't been, in my experience. They hadn't been in my house. They hadn't experienced what the dynamic was like, and they're telling me to behave and stuff. So a lot of mistrust was kind of broken even during the marriage. But after the marriage, you can't trust the two people that have been there your entire life. And you feel like you've lost kind of your only connection to the world, the only true, fully trusting connection that you would have. You feel betrayed. You feel like that connection is gone and that you can't trust anybody else and you're all alone in this world and everyone's out to get you. And so it was the impacts it had was I had a hard time kind of going to the professor asking for help because I was like, well, they don't care. They just want me to fail. When in fact that's the complete opposite of a professor's job. They want you to succeed. That's their goal, is to teach you. Um, and so when you have a situation where you have a parent who's supposed to support you, but isn't, and is actually just using you, you kind of take that situation or system and you apply it to every single other person you see around you, including teachers and people that are there to support you at school.
Do you feel that it might have an impact on your ability to have relationships and keep relationships later in life too, as well?
Absolutely. So a lot of the things, um, I think one of the biggest social situations that it affected was the friendships and connections that I made in university to other students. Because you would make new friends, but you'd always, in the back of your mind, you'd always be questioning what does the person want from me? What's their ultimate goal? Like, how are they gonna just use me and toss me aside? You know? And so you never actually get to that deep part of the connection where you may have this person in your life, for the rest of your life. You may talk to them for the rest of your life. You don't let them get that close to you. You can kind of always keep them at arm's reach for yourself as a protective measure because you've kind of gone through this already.
So within all this chaos, how would you describe the impact on your mental health?
Completely isolated. I was completely isolated. Um, I It just felt like you didn't there was no point to all of this. There was this, you know, what is the point in going through life if I can't trust anybody? Everyone's out to get me. And, I'm just the only person I can trust is myself. So what's the point? Why would I want to keep going? Why do I want to just the only thing that I can really necessarily do if I keep living is to make more connections that I can trust. So it just doesn't seem like there's any points or I guess to sum it up, it took my will to live. It took that all away from me.
Now, that's, did all of this also have an impact on your physical health as well?
Yes, actually, I was throwing up almost daily from stress. Um, and I had developed ulcers in my stomach. Um, of course, like you would drinking's a big thing in university, and so I would indulge in that a lot as well. Um, and it created serious health problems where I almost blew a hole in my stomach and almost died, which was kind of, I guess, the what I was, I guess, somewhat hoping for in a sense, just because there was no, at this point in my life, there was no point to life. But I couldn't bring myself to do it, harm anyone. I guess, not, it's not directly, but in harming myself, I would hurt them emotionally.
Okay, so it sounds like, yeah, so there was even suicidal thoughts while you're going through all this.
Yeah.
Now you did reach out for counseling. How important for someone who's going through what you're going through, and statistics indicate that you're not alone. There's a lot of people going through what you're going through.
Absolutely.
Um, how important is it to get counseling?
I would say extremely important. For me, it gives you a completely different perspective. So one of the things is we have two parts of our brain. There's the uh, kind of the front prefrontal cortex, then there's your amygdala. And I was living purely in my amygdala. I was all emotional, purely emotional, felt everything that came towards me. Was mistrusting of everyone because I felt this anger and rage and kind of dishonesty, um, and betrayal. And so I could only think from that spot in my brain and applied that to everywhere else. And it ruled my social interactions. It ruled how I studied. It ruled my daily life. It ruled my health, what I ate, if I was going to eat that day, when I slept, if I was even able to sleep, and if I was going to take care of myself. And so, in getting counseling, it gives you a different perspective of life. Here I was thinking that everyone's out to get me, everyone's, gonna harm me, and everyone just wants something from me and to take from me. And um, this individual that you see in counseling is there to look at your situation, is someone that is legally binded to keep this information discreet. And so you're able to share all of this information and actually get a full second opinion, whereas opposed to, someone might try and kind of get this fake counseling through their friends where they release some of the information and they want to get a second opinion. However, not all of the information is disclosed or seen. And so it's very important to get the second opinion because otherwise you would just be alone in this world and you would, I'm sorry, it's a little difficult.
Take
Um,
your time.
I guess it's extremely important to get that second opinion. Yeah, because it gives you hope. It gives you hope in a time of absolute loss.
How important do you feel is it for a child to have a relationship with both parents? I mean, obviously, it's going to be flawed sometimes because of what's happened, but how important is it for someone to have a connection to both sets of parents?
Um, I guess it does depend in, I can't say for all situations, of course, because I don't know the parents. Sometimes it will probably be beneficial to stay with one parent. Sometimes it will be beneficial to stay with the other parent. Sometimes it's beneficial to stay with both parents. It all depends on the parent, of course. Um, However, in my humble opinion, if you do have a healthy relationship with your parents, both sides, I think it's pretty important to keep this connection to both of them. um, with that being said, also, I think counseling is important for both sides, not just for the affected individual, but for the affected party as a whole, the family. And I think that would be very beneficial. And in my own life, I've seen numerous amounts of improvements with counseling for the family as a whole.
Now, in Canada, we're talking about there's organizations trying to bring about shared parenting to kind of remove the alimony aspects, to remove the financial benefits of having the child living with one or the other. Do you think that would make a difference if sort of money and alimony was taken off the table?
I think it could both, it could have positive and negative effects. Positive effects in the way that it would remove the incentive for alienation. That would definitely be removed in that aspect, but also negatively in the aspect of if the parent just wants is interested in just the money, they won't want anything to do with the kid at all.
I guess
That's
you see their stripes then for sure.
Yeah, there's always a gray. There, it could be taken both ways.
If you could speak to another parent who's going through a divorce
mhm.
and they're thinking of, bad mouthing and involving the child and putting them in the middle, what would you say to that parent?
I feel very strongly about this, so excuse my language, but I would say own your shit. It's your stuff. It's your stuff to deal with. It's not anyone else's stuff to deal with. If you have this bottled up emotion about the situation, that's allowed. You're absolutely valid to have these feelings. What's not okay is to put that onto your child who is just trying to get their life together. That is all they're trying to do. They're trying to get their life together. They're trying to start their own family. They don't need your emotional stuff. That is not something that will help them. That is not something that will benefit them. That is not something that will benefit you. What do you expect to get from your kids by telling them this? And so through that, I would say go get therapy. If you need to release some of this emotion, don't keep it bottled in, but also don't put it on your kid. It's got to go somewhere. Go to therapy.
Wow, that's very powerful. I really want to thank you. It takes a lot of therapy to be able to go through what you've gone through, and even more so to be able to talk about it. I met you early on in your process, and you're definitely in a very different space. And I want to encourage you to continue that journey and to know that this video is going to make a difference. I really do believe it. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being so brave and so open to come and chat with me.
Thank you for having me. This has been a wonderful kind of experience. It's a roller coaster of life for sure. And thank you for being there to help me through this process. And it's wonderful to know that I have had support that has been very helpful in this time of enormous amount of distress.
Okay, take care.
Thank you.